How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good.
Well, I haven't done an episode of this in ages. It's kind of been on the back burner or in retirement. And when I saw that you had a new edition of Get the Lad Out, I was like, oh, I think it's time for my rock podcast. There it is. There it is.
Absolutely. Yes, it's just come out and it's doing really good, getting great reviews, and I think it's the definitive
Are
book.
in there. The book is Get the Lad Out, How Led Zeppelin Became the Biggest Band in the World. I don't even know if we've ever actually met in person, but we've known of each other
Yes, of course.
since I
You're
was at KLOL or maybe even before that.
a
It's
legend in Houston, I know.
we're, just anybody in the rock business, going back to the 70s. It's kind of like we're all some big dysfunctional, wonderful family somehow or
Right.
another. But when I saw you had a new edition of the book, I think the original came out in 2012.
Yes, it did. And what I did was I got a call from my publisher, Hachette, and they said, "Well, maybe we should update this thing because they're still the biggest band in the world, and there's a lot going on." So I said, "Okay, let me take the best of." I took like 10 interviews from the original book, and I added another 250 pages, more memorabilia, more background info, a lot of extra stuff, and then I got Carmine a piece to write the forward
Oh
because
my
he's
gosh.
John Bonham's mentor, as you probably know. And he was the
That's a
first.
whole nother podcast episode of how when Ozzy fired Carmine, I ended up with Carmine and the entire drum set in my apartment for a week.
Oh, okay.
But it's this book, I mean the original version, 2012, and now this one, the ultimate book for the ultimate Led Zeppelin fan. It is just an absolutely beautiful, beautiful coffee table book. And just a book for any rock fan. I never got to see Led Zeppelin. Never got to see Led because I wasn't old enough
Right.
the last
Yeah.
time they toured. And but it's just like you feel like you know this band, and even my husband, his ringtone on my phone is Whole Lot of Love. I hear the first couple of notes, and
Right.
it just there are Zeppelin songs that when you hear those first few notes, there is no mistaking who it belongs to.
Right.
What are some of your favorite, what are some of your favorites from the original book, whether it's a picture, an interview, an image,
Well, I'll,
memorabilia?
I'll tell you that a couple of things that are left over that I had in the original book, I have in here because they're just amazing stories. And one I like to tell is there's a guy named Bill Harry who was he's from Liverpool, so he did PR for the Beatles when they came out. So of course he was very well connected. After the Beatles broke, he moved to London to become a PR guy. Every group in the world hired him. He gets a call from Peter Grant, Led Zeppelin's legendary manager. I want you to come to my office. I want to talk to you. And so he assumes that he wants to hire him to do PR for Led Zeppelin. So of course he goes over into Peter Grant's office and he said, "Okay, so yeah, I'll do the." He asked him to be the PR guy, and he said, "Sure, I'd love to. What do you want me to do?" And Peter Grant said, "I want you to keep the press away." I said, "Wait a minute. You want me to be the press officer, but I don't want anybody talking to them. I need someone to deal with them. We're not talking to anybody. We're not doing TV. We're not doing interviews. Rolling Stone didn't like us. They gave us a bad review. So screw everybody. But that's your job. Keep people away." And he was like flabbergasted. So
That's great.
tells the whole story about that. Um, there's just so many good, great stories in here, and I updated it also to include. I'm sure you're familiar with the Stairway to Heaven lawsuit a few years
Right.
back, right? Okay. So I was hired as an expert witness on that case. And I followed the whole thing. Most people don't know. They know the outcome. Zeppelin won, but what they really don't know is what really happened. Spirit, a band from California, Los Angeles. Actually, the guy's leaders was Randy California. It was a five-piece band, and they were the middle act on the first Led Zeppelin tour. It was Vanilla Fudge, Spirit, Led Zeppelin, and they also played a lot of other dates with them. And Zeppelin were big fans of theirs. So when this lawsuit came up, because if you listen to the intro to the song Taurus on the first Spirit album, and you listen to the intro to Stairway to Heaven, they're identical. So what happened was, I had, this is really weird. I had been on the Howard Stern show because he had been talking about how Led Zeppelin ripped off a lot of their songs, and he was looking for someone like an expert. So he got a hold of a friend of mine, and he called me up and said, "Would you come on? I want to talk about this." I said, "Sure." And I ran through all the clues and played everything, and it was like amazing. I mean, the listeners were going crazy. Some guy called up and said, "Oh, this is terrible. Stairway to Heaven was the song for my wedding. Does that mean my wedding's not legal?" I mean, it just went on and on and on. Anyway, make this a shorter story. The estate of Randy, California, because they're all the members of Spirit are dead except for one, and that's Mark Andes. So somebody played an air check of me on the show to Mark Andes, and he goes, "Wow, this guy really got it right," because I explained how how they had the opportunity and where it came from, how they did. I mean, it's identical. So he hired a lawyer. Lawyer called me up and said, "Listen, I read your book. We want you to be an expert witness. Mark Andes heard your appearance and with all the clues and everything, and he's joining the case." So what happened was I followed the case, and actually it went to the jury trial, and the judge ruled in Zeppelin's favor. Now, the interesting thing is, though, it was overturned and it was appealed. And they had another hearing, another jury trial. And the lawyer said, "Well, look, Judge, all you have to do is play the first 20 seconds of each song next to each other for the jury, and there's no question." And the judge said, "Can't do that." What do you mean you can't do that? Well, Zeppelin didn't do demos. Everything was written out in folios. So we'll be glad to let the jury see the folio for Stairway and the folio for Tars and see if they think it's the same. And I said, "There's no way a jury is going to read sheet music and be able to tell this." So they ended up winning again, but it went on for like 3 years, the trial. It was amazing. So
What
anyway,
is,
I have an interview with Mark Andes in the book because he's the only surviving member, and
you
he
talk
gives the
about?
whole details behind it. And he hasn't given an interview to anybody since the outcome of the case.
What's one of your favorite things in the new version
Gosh, I'll tell you what it
besides
is.
that story?
Okay, Craig Cowman, who's the chairman of Atlantic Records, I don't know if you know him. He is a huge Led Zeppelin fan, obviously. And I interviewed him for the book, and he said, "By the way, you know the story about Led Zeppelin. They wouldn't allow any singles to be released from their albums, and they wouldn't do television. The only thing they ever allowed was they allowed in America only Whole Lotta Love to be put out as a single, obviously." So I said, "Yeah, I know." He said, "Well, just so you know, we had 38 affiliates around the world who put singles out, and they had to send it here to get approved. And of course, they were all destroyed or pulled from the market." He goes, "However, being the collector that I am, I have a copy of each of the picture sleeves. So, and they're all up on his wall." He said, "If you want to come in and shoot this, because no one's ever seen any of these." So I did, and I have in the book the covers of all the singles that would have been released in different countries around the world. And I think that's pretty unique because I don't know anybody that's seen them.
That's
So
amazing.
yeah, if
I
you're a real collector, that's the memorabilia is pretty amazing in the book. Also, what happened was I found the biggest Led Zeppelin collector in the United States. He lives in Virginia. Went to his house. I couldn't believe it. Um, Even the band licensed his stuff when they did a traveling show several years ago, like an exhibition. And I paid him to let me shoot everything in the house. And so I have just about all the memorabilia that's ever been put out, in addition to the covers that Craig Kalman let me have. So that's probably one of my favorites because I know that nobody has ever seen that.
Well, for somebody who doesn't know you, I should go backwards here and say you're probably one of the most prolific producers of rock radio programming. Um, I mean, I remember hearing your shows when I was just starting out.
Right.
It's like,
Yeah.
oh man, I want to be the female version of this guy. This guy is great. Um, you have worked with one of my favorite artists and one of my favorite people and one of my favorite Texans in the world, Eric Johnson.
Oh,
Um,
okay, great.
yeah,
Yeah.
so that just brought back such memories, reading about your work with Eric. What are you doing now?
Well, I'm out promoting the book. Now, I got to tell you, it's real hard today because when the original book came out, I was able to do like Larry King Live and I did the Today Show and, Good Morning. I think Houston had a Good Morning Houston show. Dallas
Right?
had one. I did all those shows all everywhere. Now, almost none of them exist. Um, Good Morning America picked the book as a suggested Christmas gift. But other than that, there's no real place to promote this. It's all social
Ah,
media. All
but you
social
know
media.
who's still doing great rock interviews?
Who's that?
Two people, David Letterman and Dan Rather. So you really should get in touch with
Yes.
Dan Rather because I mean, he is such a rock fan, but he
Yeah.
hid all that behind that news
Yeah.
persona for the longest time. And now in his later years, he's interviewing all of his favorites. So you should
Yeah.
definitely
Well,
reach out to
Dan
him.
Rather's on hiatus.
Oh,
He did a bunch of shows. They're in reruns now. And David Letterman is doing a show on Netflix. So, I don't know how easy that'll be. The one show they tell me that really sells books and that I should get on, but I can't compete, is the CBS Sunday Morning Show.
oh,
If
yeah.
you do that show, you're guaranteed to sell books, but that's almost impossible to get on. So,
Well, who knows? Maybe somebody at CBS will see
yeah,
this or hear this, and they're really
right,
missing out because Led Zeppelin, just the way I started this interview with you, talking about how those first few notes in my husband's ringtone
right.
still evoke such a deep emotion in my soul when I hear those first few notes of Whole Lotta Love.
Yeah, yeah,
And you also talk to a lot of different artists about Led Zeppelin and what Led Zeppelin meant to them or how Led Zeppelin inspired
yeah.
them. One of them, and I wanted to get the story from you because I was actually out to dinner with Paul Rogers last night. So, what
Okay.
did Paul have to say about Led Zeppelin?
First of all, how's he doing?
He is doing really well.
Okay.
He's taking it easy. He just that whole travel to the Rock Hall and everything, it was
Yeah,
just a little overwhelming. But he looks great, doing great. He's just one of we're fortunate that we've gotten to know him because he lives in Palm Springs part of the year like we do.
right.
And he is just one of the funniest. He's just got that dry,
Yeah.
he's quiet, he's soft-spoken, but when he does speak, it's usually hysterical. So he's doing
Well,
well.
I'll tell you what he told what's in the book, and both he and Simon Kirk are in the book. When they started Bad Company after Free broke up, they were sitting around rehearsing, and Paul said to Simon, "We need to get a manager. Who's the biggest manager in the world?" And uh, you know, Simon and everybody else said, "Well, Peter Grant manages Led Zeppelin." And Paul said, "Well, how am I possibly going to get a hold of Peter Grant? I mean, nobody's ever heard of us. We just started, but he might know me from Free, but how would you possibly get a hold of a guy like that?" Lo and behold, Peter Grant had heard about the band forming and told a former roadie for Free or something like that that he wanted to meet Paul and the band and hear them play. So that's how they got hooked up. Somebody told Paul, "Hey, Peter Grant is looking to get in touch with you." And he said, "You're kidding. How does he even know who we are?" So they connected and they set up a time for Peter to come and to the rehearsal place and check him out. So it was 2 o'clock, I think, on a weekend, and so 2 o'clock comes, and the band's in the rehearsal studio, and they're rehearsing, and it's 3 o'clock, it's 4 o'clock. They've been rehearsing for 2 hours. No Peter Grant. Finally, um, Paul goes outside. This guy gets out of a car, and it's Peter Grant, and he walks over to Paul, and Paul says, "Well, oh, you're a little late, but that's okay. We'll do our whole set over again for you." He goes, "No, no, no. I've been sitting here in the parking lot listening. I already know I want to sign you."
Oh, that's fantastic. That's funny because Paul was talking about last night when they first formed the band Free. I think it was when they first formed Free.
Yeah.
His brother was their manager because he was the only one who could drive.
Ah, that's not uncommon. That happens a lot.
Yeah,
But
so it was time to find a new manager. So, what is the what is the interview that you never got
well,
that
I
you
got
wish
an
you
interview
had?
that I know some people know about this, but I actually talked to this guy was the road manager. I mean, and he's one of Steven Tyler's best friends. His name is Henry Smith, and he's in the book. He told me, and I hadn't heard this from anybody, that several years ago when Jimmy Page was thinking of reforming the band without Robert Plant and he was auditioning singers, he called up Steven Tyler and said, "Would you come out and do an audition?" And Steven said, "Sure." And Henry Smith went with him, so he was there. He said, they played for like 2 hours, and he said it was amazing, but Jimmy just thought it's just not going to work. I can't do it. But Steven Tyler actually auditioned for Jimmy Page and was being considered heavily for that position.
God,
But
I can't even imagine that, Danny. I can't at all imagine. But who would have thought Queen would find Adam? I
yeah,
mean, if you had thought about that before, because they tried going out, of course, with Paul Rogers and several other people, and
right,
it just
right,
didn't click like Freddie did, and then all of a
yeah.
sudden Adam. I can't imagine even Steven Tyler. I can't imagine anybody taking Robert Plant's place.
Well, here's another an adjacent story. I have Joe Perry in the book interviewed, and he's one of the biggest Yardbirds fans in the world. So is Steven Tyler. In fact, Steven Tyler used to go to Yardbird shows. Henry Smith was a Yardbirds roadie originally. That's how they met, and he let him help carry equipment on some Yardbird shows, setting up the equipment. That's how big a fan he was. Anyway, so Joe Perry was telling me how when they years ago when they did um, Downington, the big rock festival in England, the heavy metal festival, they called and asked if Jimmy would come because they were friends. If Jimmy would come and play with them, so Jimmy said, "Sure, I'll do Downington with you." So he did. And then the next day, Joe says, "Listen, we're going to play." Now, they were already a huge band, but they said, "Look, we're going to play the Marquee Club because we've never played it." And that's like, if you're an American band, it doesn't matter how big, you always want to play the Whiskey a Go Go because it's like a thing. If you're an American band and you're in England, the Marquee Club is so legendary. It holds like 300 and some people or whatever. And they booked themselves into the Marquee Club. So when after Downington, Joe said to Jimmy, "Listen, we're doing the Marquee Club. Would you come along? Maybe, play a song or something." He says Jimmy came along and he said almost the entire set was all Yardbird songs that they got to play with him. And he said it was the most unbelievable day I've ever had. We did a few of our songs, but the rest of them were all Yardbird songs. And it was just an amazing time.
Yeah,
So
I always find it so interesting and fascinating, and I love it when you hear artists of that caliber talk about who they idolize. Like Paul was talking about Otis Redding. I mean,
yeah,
he
right.
goes off
Otis
in another
Redding. Yeah.
space when he talks about Otis Redding, or to hear somebody like Steven Tyler talk about the Yardbirds like that, or the way David Crosby used to talk about Steely Dan, like they were just like the band of all time. Do you do you listen to current music?
Oh,
Do you
yeah,
have
I
any
do. But
favorites?
uh, what's this? is it Larkin Poe, I think they're called.
Hmm.
I like them a lot. There's not a lot of new stuff I like. Obviously, I like to go see the classics bands. I'm living in Florida now, and unfortunately, I like you probably. I used to go to three, four shows a
Yeah,
week,
well, I
see
can't stay
everything.
up past 8:30 at night now.
Yeah,
So
no,
there.
I know, but I cannot go see a cover band. I just can't. I've seen the
No.
real thing. I'm not going to see another Eagles cover band or another.
Or it's like when Denny people say, I'm going to go see Foreigner. I'm like, that is not Foreigner.
Yeah, exactly.
There is
I
not
mean,
one original member in that band.
I almost went. I live near the Hard Rock down in Fort Lauderdale. I live in Boynton Beach, actually. And I saw that the Guess Who were playing there. And I said to myself, wow, Guess Who? They're great. I want to go see. I later found out it was only the drummer, who no one remembers, and an
Yeah.
entire new group were playing. And when I, just for the hell of it, I looked to see they were charging $250 for tickets and a $200 service charge. And
Oh
I
my
said,
gosh.
you got to be kidding me. There's no way. So the only bands I go to see are like, I'm going to see Styx. They're doing a tour with Chicago, called the Chicago Wind Tour, which is a great coupling of the two bands out of Chicago. And I'm going to go see Carlos Santana when he comes to the Hard Rock.
Oh
But
my
other
gosh,
than
that'll be
that, I
good.
saw Yes not too long ago. Granted, Steve Howe is still there. John Anderson, I've seen him solo. He's tremendous. There aren't two. I happen to live next to Carmine and Mark Stein from the Vanilla Fudge. So whenever they play, they're still playing, by the way, with three original guys
Oh my
out of the
gosh.
four. So I went to see them not too long ago, and they're still great. I mean, Carmine goes crazy, as you probably know.
I love
Still
Carmine.
has it.
Yeah.
Um, but other than that, there's not too many people I would go see.
Mm.
Who do you like? Who do you listen to? Maybe you can turn me
I'm
on to somebody.
probably a lot the same of you. I've become such a news junkie, but that's a whole nother podcast.
Yeah,
When I do listen, I've always loved the classics. Nobody knew that about me during rock and roll, and I mean the Frank Sinatras, the Tony Bennett's.
right,
So I will listen to that, and I will go see somebody if they're in town, Night Ranger. I'll
right,
run by Pat Benatar. I'll run by
right,
Soundcheck. Joan Jett, because you never
right,
know, if she's got Kenny Laguna with her, I'll go see her because I want to see Kenny.
right.
I don't go out a lot because first of all, it's not my realm anymore, and I'm spoiled by full access, backstage
Right.
passes,
Right.
parking, the back door. I don't
Yeah.
even, I'll admit I'm spoiled by all of that.
Yeah.
And I get up so early these days to write and create content that I said I can't go to a concert. I'll fall asleep in it. But there's just
But
some.
you would go see McCartney, wouldn't you?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I didn't go see him when he was here. Again, his guitar player, Brian Ray,
Right.
another neighbor here in Palm Springs. But we had just gotten back into Palm Springs, and so we missed that particular show. There are certain people, yeah, you got to go see them. Um, I just can sit and listen to music. I just
Mhm.
like to sit and listen. I don't like the crowds anymore.
Yeah.
I think after COVID, I was like, no, I think I'll stay at home and listen. But every once in a while, there is somebody you want to go see. And I love to go see the lesser known artist, like from the Wagoneers, Monty Warden. I can go sit through a Monty
Okay.
Warden
Yeah.
show, people like that. What did we listen to the other day that I had just forgotten how much I loved? Oh, I had Sonos play, played the Stevie Ray Vaughan. So
Right.
that's where I heard some Eric Johnson and I
Right.
heard some of the blues players and the Vaughan brothers and that kind of thing, the Fabulous Thunderbirds. So, but I'm just so excited you had some time for me. I loved the first edition of the book, so now I'm gonna have to get the second edition of it and check it out.
I appreciate you contacting me and helping me promote this because, like I said, I've been doing a bunch of podcasts and a few other things, some major newspaper interviews, but it is really tough to promote a book. And you can get it from Amazon, and it's in most of the Barnes and Noble stores and most of the Books a Million and those kind of stores because Hachette is a big publisher. I think they're the third biggest publisher in the world. So it's out there, but I'm just trying. I'm doing book signings
Yeah.
because
Well,
that's
we all
something
know
difficult.
what is what was the series of movies that Nicolas Cage did? But anyway, there's a character. The opening scene of the movie is him lugging his books and his
Right.
life-size stand-up away from a book
Oh,
signing. And I always tell people are like, "Oh my gosh, there's a book signing. That's so exciting." I'm like, "No, the majority of time you tell people where the bathroom is. That's the
yeah.
number one question people
Yeah.
have when you do a book signing. It's not glamorous." Well, Denny, thank you so much
Well,
for
I
doing
want to
this.
ask you though,
Oh
you
yeah.
have a bunch of books out. Do you actively promote them or?
I do. I do. I use social media quite a bit. The book I wrote about losing my mom to Alzheimer's is, of course, my bestseller. It's a dark comedy, but a lot of information for caregivers and families who are going through this.
Right.
And so still do. Um, I do a lot of book clubs. I do a lot of medical conferences, but I also, in radio, I learned as a female in rock radio in Houston that I had to learn to self-promote. And
Right.
I will admit I'm one of the, best self-promoters in the world. So there is always a box of books in my car. And
Right. Yeah.
everybody gets a book. And so that's how
Yeah.
I end up with like I am doing a book club discussion and signing for probably about 100 people here in Palm Springs in a few weeks.
Oh, that's
And
great.
it's just because I'm telling everybody, please
Right.
come, please come, please come be a warm body. Um, but that I wasn't joking when I said I wanted to help you sell a few books because it is for a rock fan, especially a Led Zeppelin fan. If you miss Christmas, there's birthdays, there's Mother's Day, there's Father's Day, there's whatever. It
Yeah.
is a fantastic book to have it on your coffee table because I guarantee you people are going to come over to your house for dinner or to hang out or to watch the game or something, and you're going to find out they're Led Zeppelin fans and they're going to
Yeah.
pick it up and look
I'm
at it.
finding that out. I mean, I'll tell you a real quick story. I got a call from a woman who, have you ever heard of the Villages? It's a section of
Yeah,
Florida.
yeah.
Okay. So
Oh,
I get a
you
call
could
from,
sell a ton of books there.
yeah. So I get a call from this woman and she goes, listen, we do the entertainment for the Villages. She didn't know I was in Florida. And we're showing, we got a theater, 400-seat theater. We're going to show the Zeppelin documentary, but we wanted to do something extra. I found you on the internet. Would you come and give a talk on Led Zeppelin after the movie for this audience? And I said, well, actually, I'm only like 2 hours away. So if you get me a hotel room and pay for dinner, I'll come and do it. So I did, and I didn't know what to expect. Of course, everybody was over 60. And there were several people in their early 80s that were at this thing, and they all loved it. And I did this talk, and I got like questions afterwards, and I got like a standing ovation. So what I'm doing now is I'm putting together a presentation based around the book because I have many of the interviews are on tape, and I can show excerpts, but I can also tell a lot of stories. And I'm going to try and go around and do all these 55 plus communities because they're always looking for
Oh, that would
entertainment.
be excellent. So, you know what? And that's I'm in that realm now. That's sort of what I
Yeah,
deal in is, recovering caregivers and a caregiver advocate and preventative health. They call it welderly. Well,
right,
be welderly. And so, I know I have steel, most of my steel workers are 60 plus. So
right.
we're gonna sell some books and get you out there speaking because you would be just fabulous.
If you send me your email address, because I don't think I have it, I'll send you, if you want, I'll send you, I have a electronic version of the book.
Oh,
But of
that'd
course,
be fantastic.
you really want to get the actual book because it's so amazing and, it is a coffee table book.
And I'm going to
I,
make an
I,
introduction to my friend Randy Hulsey, who does Backstage Pass Radio. It's a podcast that's heard by, I think, over 100,000 people around the world. So
oh, please
I'm going to
do.
get you two together, and I know he would love to talk to you. So you're just a pleasure to talk to. And thank you so much for doing Dana's Diner in such short notice.
I love it. I love it. And it was finally great to meet you in person, if you want to call it.
There you go.
But of course,
Uh,
I've known about you for forever, and we were both in album radio at the same time. And This is great. So I appreciate you reaching out, and I'll look forward to anybody else that you think might be good and be happy to do it.
All right, well, rock on.
Okay.
Thank you for listening to the occasional episode of Dayna's Diner. For more information, visit my website, daynasteele.com.